Lisa Lovett is a poet, writer, photographer, and host of Seasoned Dialogue, a podcast dedicated to self love, healing, and emotional growth. During Black History Month, she spoke with students at the University of Pacific on the topic of where do we go from here. She sat down with the Observer to talk about her insights on healing, resilience, and share some encouragement. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us here at the Observer. We are so honored to have you. I want to start by asking um, just how has your Black History Month been?
Mm, Black History. How has Black History Month been?
Your Black History Month, yeah, for you. Like,
Yes.
what has this month been like for you?
I feel like even though they try to construct it in 1 month, it's all year long. Black History Month is celebrating every single person in any capacity that they hold and just being proud. So for me, it's a 365 or 366 day thing, but just to know that we're celebrated, it's been great. Yeah.
So you were here last week at the university, speaking about Black History Month and where do we go from here? Can you tell me a little bit about how that went and where do we go from here?
Absolutely. So I spoke on Black history and also its ties into mental health. I wanted to do so to just bring focus as to our history, and also just bring some focus into professional spaces. How I feel like we need to all be culturally competent in professional spaces, in any space, especially in school, how we need to just be collective. And so I started it off with just an exercise. I described how slaves were taken from their home. I wanted everybody to close their eyes. I wanted them to experience what it felt like to be a slave. And also going from a slave in the beginning, not knowing how that felt, to also being kind of on the block, and being sold in auction. I wanted to start that off so that we could get clarity as to a feeling and how that felt. And then I went into the presentation. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm so
Mhm.
sad I missed it.
Yeah.
So your work, I've listened to your podcast countless of
Mhm.
times, and your work focuses just on healing,
Mhm.
and just learning yourself and being in self-love and all the
Yes.
wonderful, wonderful things. As Black people in this era, how should we be trying to heal and how should we be just focusing on creating a better life for ourselves, especially in this era?
Absolutely. I think one thing I wanted to focus on is that we have intergenerational trauma. And many times we don't know what to do with that. So we have been taught things from previous generations. And so I'm so glad that social media is kind of giving an outlet for people to kind of get insight on things that we should do utilizing. I think it has brought focus into maybe you haven't been able to talk about it in your family or amongst friends, and social media gives an outlet. So where do we go from here is being aware that there's information out there, that there are therapists, that there are counselors in any capacity. And I also told the audience as well, if you feel like you're not ready to be in a professional setting, your friends can, they can be the mediator as someone to talk to or just someone to listen. Many times people don't really necessarily need an answer, they just need an ear. Yeah.
That's very true. Sometimes people definitely just need an ear.
Yes.
Um, so you are awesome. You're all the things, okay? You're a poet, you're a writer, you're a photographer.
Mhm.
You you are all of the things. How do you think people can use any of these creative mediums to
Mm.
really not just heal, but really
Yeah.
find themselves? We don't want to always focus on the trauma we're currently in, right? We want to
Yes.
focus on, becoming better selves for ourselves in whatever era we're in. So, how do you think people can use these different mediums to do so?
Absolutely. So creative mediums like writing, for me, photography, I mean, all any aspect of it, whatever you enjoy, it puts you in a space of taking away the stressors of life. So if you like to walk, if you like to read, if you like to exercise, those are components that you can use to reduce your stress level. So I think that mindfully, you work, you may go to school, but give yourself an opportunity, a space to do something that you enjoy doing, thus reducing the stress levels that you feel on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, my dog is like doing a lot, so I'm trying to stay on mute. That's why I'm muting myself because
It's
she's back
okay.
there like doing. Yeah, I totally 100% agree with that. Thinking of Black History Month, just bringing it back a little bit and where we are um, today, what message do you want to send to not just your audience,
Yeah.
but anyone who is not even familiar with your work and who you are and is a Black person? Um,
Yeah.
what message would you want to send to them?
Goodness. My message does not just stop at the Black community. It goes far beyond that. And I wanted to create a space where, number one, we feel comfortable enough to sit in a space of vulnerability, also openness, and our authenticity, whatever authenticity means for you and however you show up. Um, I want to bring everyone together. So it's just not, me being a Black woman. But with that being said, I think with being a face, that anybody can do anything you put your mind to. One thing I always emphasize is that there was a place, in my life. I tell people I am an introvert, and sometimes it's hard for you to show up in spaces. But everyone has a purpose, everyone has their own work to do. And so, whatever God nudges you to do, or the universe nudges you to do, don't think that you're small. You have a voice, and utilize your voice, your creativity, your art to define your purpose.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you started your podcast? What was the driving force behind that?
Absolutely. So I shared as well that in 2020 I lost my mother in July, and then 2 months later I lost my brother. And it was so sudden. Life really just it took a toll on me. Before then, you kind of just cope, and then there are instances where it kind of just jolts you and makes you sit for a while. And so that was one of the instances. And I really had a hard time dealing with grief. I went through a bout of depression, but I seeked counseling, and that counselor really helped me, gave me some tools to help me utilize going through the grief process. And so after I came out of that grieving and also that place of depression, I said, maybe the purpose is to share some of the instances and circumstances that I have been through in my life. Of course, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it ended up being nothing less than a blessing. So, yeah.
What was that like, sharing sharing that with the world?
Mm. Vulnerability can be scary, because there is a place where you don't want to feel judged, or you just, it's different. But I had so many things to talk about, and the feedback that I got in every aspect or episode that I shared, it let me know that I was on the right track. And I think after maybe about the fifth episode, this was something that I felt like I wanted to continue because it was work being done. Not only was it unbeknownst to me, of course, somebody was going to hear it and it was going to help, but it also helped my grieving process and my healing process as well. So that's why I kept going. Yeah.
You described yourself as an introvert.
Yeah.
And I read that. I was like, "Huh, introvert." Um,
Yes.
I too am an introvert, and no one would ever know that.
Yes.
So what helps you, as an introvert,
Yeah,
share yourself with the world, in this way? Because I know it's difficult.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. I keep in mind that I am in control of my environment. and that I can still show up and share from a space of authenticity. I don't have to be anybody that I don't have to be. And I curate this life based on what feels comfortable for me. So if it doesn't feel comfortable, I don't go into it. You know, I can always stop myself if there's an uncomfortableness in it. I think that many people feel, or maybe they think or perceive that introverts, they're kind of just square it off. But for the most part, an introvert will talk to you. It's just the type of conversations, the type of community, the type of environment that they're in. So again, I control the factors surrounding my life, and it works for me.
Absolutely. An introvert would definitely talk to you.
Yes.
Um, what are some daily kind of uh routines
Mhm.
or things that people can adapt, especially think about us introverts,
Yeah.
that we can adapt to kind of open up more, or maybe if
Yeah.
we're struggling finding the thing in this life that we want to do, what are some
Mm,
things we can do daily to kind of propel ourselves to get to where
absolutely.
we need to be?
I think, for most people, they'll tell you that when finding their purpose or their thing, it's something that's always been ingrained in them anyway. Fear will make us feel as if we can't go beyond a certain point. So, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, capitalize on that time spent doing it, and find community that likes the things that you do as well. So I mean, it could be anything. If you like planting, if you like music, whatever it is, bridge into that, own it, and find people who enjoy it as well. And you won't feel that you have to show up outside of what you already enjoy doing and what already comes natural to you.
Where, if someone wanted to start sharing their own story, where
Mhm.
do you recommend they begin?
Goodness. Small community. So, for example, you have friends. I think good friend groups will levitate you and push you to the places that you want to go. And then when you find the confidence there, if you feel like you want to go beyond that point, you'll always have those friends or family that will support you so you don't feel alone by yourself. And then when you feel comfortable, then share. But again, I always say to do it in your comfortability level. Don't try to expand or move beyond the needle that you are settled in. Take it step by step, and then from that process, it'll feel natural to you.
Absolutely. Few more questions.
Uh-huh.
Um, in this journey of sharing and just being an inspiration to people, what
Yeah.
has been like one of the most unexpected things that has happened, and how did you deal with that?
I think the most unexpected would be being asked to do events. Being asked to speak, being asked to do poetry. And again, that's different from what I am accustomed to, but I also know that there was a space that for me, God was leading me to. So even though the first event that I did, I was so scared, I felt settled in knowing that whatever the message that I had to give out, it was for someone. And so that fear, I mean, it subsided the moment that I opened my mouth. And the more that I've done it, it just feels comfortable to me. Even though mindfully, like I'm in a space of people that I don't know, again, I can always revert back to my shell once done, and I'm done with it. Yeah.
That was unexpected. You didn't
Yes.
think you would be asked
I
to?
was doing it, when I started my podcast and I started Season Dialogue on social media, I really was doing it for myself. It was for healing. I didn't show up for anybody else but myself. So to know that someone wanted me to show up in a space and talk or do poetry, it was a little unexpected. But I also feel like as you go a little bit along, doors will open and you got to be ready to walk into it. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Many people are afraid to step into a spotlight because they feel like it might be a lot of pressure to,
Yeah.
be this. perfect person that everyone see? Do you feel
Yeah.
that in any way? And
No,
how do you okay, and
I
if
do not.
somebody and if somebody is afraid for some reason,
Mhm.
afraid to step into the spotlight for that reason, what would you say to them?
Keep being yourself. I think that when people put expectations on us and we feel like we have to feel that expectation, that's when the confusion comes in. So always stay relative to who you are, and again, if you are being open in a space and it feels uncomfortable, you have a voice. I don't feel comfortable maybe at this time doing an event or doing whatever it is. You have permission to say no. And then whenever you feel comfortable, then go through it. But authenticity is, I, I can't say it enough. Be who you are and move the way that feels comfortable for you. Don't do anything outside of you, because at the end of the day, you'll suffer more than just being comfortable doing what it felt like you needed to do.
You have been an inspiration to so many people. Who are some of the people in your life or in Black history that
Yeah.
have been an inspiration to you?
Absolutely. My grandmother has been my inspiration. One thing that I take away from her, she used to always say, "My baby." And there was something about the way that she said "my baby." Every time, she saw her grandkids, it was an opening, it was a nurturing. And in anything that, we had going on, we could talk to her. She settled our spirit. She prayed for us. She made us feel welcome. And as far as Black history go, I love, love, love Maya Angelou. She had, oh my goodness, her voice, her spirit, how she just arrived as a woman. I read one of her books. I cannot think of the title right now, but she talked about her life and how she lived and how she was a young mother. And I thought that was so empowering, to just be vulnerable in that book, but to also see her bridge from one place to another and become the truest form of who she was.
Yes, my Angela is my girl.
Yes.
Okay, a fun question.
Uh-huh.
If your life was, I feel like all those questions were fun actually. I gotta pat myself on the back. Um, if your life was a documentary, what would it be called?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. If my life was a documentary, what would it be called? The Rebirth. The Rebirth.
Do you want to explain a little bit?
Oh my goodness. I think that I will say that even though there was casualties in my life, things happen for a reason. And we don't understand it until after it happens and we begin to see the light. And so I feel like for my life, after I lost my mom and my brother, there was a rebirth as an individual and me as a woman. There was so much that I learned in the process, and so much that I didn't think about doing beforehand. So I'm glad that the things happened the way that they did, because it really just gave me the oomph that I needed to walk into my own space and to do the things that I feel like God called me to do.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Last question.
Mhm.
What's next? Where can we find you? Where are you going to be speaking?
Yeah,
Um, all of the things.
absolutely. So what's next is I'm currently writing a book. I don't know when it's gonna be out, but I am currently writing a book. I'm taking my time with this. The second thing is next week, March 7th through the 9th, I'll be in Newport News, Virginia, speaking at a women's conference. And you can find me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, season_dialogue. I just started Patreon as well, for a community of people who just, want to hear me talk, share, and just be in the space of like-mindedness. So yeah. So you got Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, and I'm also on YouTube as well.
Awesome. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what the book is going to be about?
Oh, my life circumstances, and how to walk through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I can't wait. I will pick it up
You.
once it's ready. Take your
Oh,
time.
thank you.
Okay. Don't feel rushed. Come to Sacramento when it's ready. We do group
Yes.
readings. We do interviews
Oh,
with people books. So I would love to interview you again in the future. Hopefully to meet you in person. Thank you
thank
so much. I
you.
really appreciate this interview. This was great.
Thank you so much.